Kyle, hey, it's Miles. How are you?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Good.
So first 20 years of All the Pain Money Can Buy. And just like that, right?
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was just like that. I mean, time does fly by, but it definitely feels like it's been a long time since that record came out to me.
I kind of want to go back to the beginning because going back, I don't think I'd realized how young you were as a band when all that happened, because I mean, there was an album before it, but you'd only been a band for, 3 years, right?
No, well, 4. And again, to me, I guess everything's relative or perspective oriented. You know, I thought we'd been around a while, but maybe some people think it didn't take that long. When I think of people like the Police or whatever, you're like, wow, you know, they formed in 1977 and they broke up in 1983.
Yeah.
So they got all that done in the space of 6 years, and we'd already been together 4 years before we had a first hit. So I don't know. I guess I was thinking differently about it.
Yeah. Well, what was the story on the first record? Like the success of that record? Was there much behind it?
There was no success. I would never use success to describe that record, even though I liked the record. It was a out and out flop. You know, it's just the thing is they didn't promote the record. And without any promotion, it didn't even really get a fair shot. I don't think people even knew it actually existed. It felt much like I'd been in this band, Big Car, and we had a record that came out in 1992, and it felt a lot like that record. Like, wow, you put all this sweat and heartache into this record, making a record, and then no one even knows it exists, and then the band breaks up because it's just so demoralizing. But so it kind of felt like that. But Fastball was a way better band than Big Car and a way more kind of solid unit. We were definitely going to keep going until we couldn't go no more. So that was a difference.
Yeah, going into All the Pain Money Can't Buy then, I mean, talking about it sort of in a similar fashion, when the first record flops and that's, you know, on a more or less a major label, I don't know, what was the feeling in the camp at that time?
We definitely thought this was it. You know, we get one more. We were amazed that we got another shot to record, and it was a bizarre set of circumstances that allowed us to make another record, because any other label or any other kind of set of circumstances, we would have just been dropped. There was no reason from a bean counter's point of view to keep us around. Yeah. And I don't really think they were like, wow, these guys could be big, could have a monster album. We just need to let them develop. No one was, our A&R guys certainly felt that way, but there were a couple of people at the label that maybe saw potential, but the real big kahunas did not. And the only reason that we got to make another record was the big kahuna got fired. So then it came down to the accountant to say yay or nay. Also, Michael Eisner at Disney was there, and he came and saw the band once, so maybe that played some sort of role. I've never heard confirmation on that. That might just be me at this moment musing that maybe that happened, but really, I think it just came down to that there was a vacuum of power. There was no one in the driver's seat, and so the accountant, who knew he was going to get fired or something like that, was like, I don't care.
Yeah,
fine with me. Make another Fastball album. And so we definitely felt like we were living on borrowed time. Like, well, okay, wow, okay, we got another shot to make another record, but there's a regime change coming, and they might just say, Who the hell is this? Drop them, drop everybody that wasn't here before.
In the 90s, that happened all the time. If you were...
All the time.
The time. You didn't, I mean... Yeah,
yep.
You didn't get those chances.
No. Nope. It wasn't like the 70s. Where you could make album after album. It's like, and then his fifth album hit. It's like, no, that didn't happen in the 90s. You were lucky to get 2 records.
Well, when it finally happened, so you guys do record the record, but it... at least on paper, I'm going to say, it looks like it actually happens pretty quickly at that point. Like, as the story goes, 6 months later, you're riding high.
Yeah, no, that is true. We recorded the album in the summer of '97, and then, but from my perspective, it was like agonizing wait. We didn't know what was going to happen. There was no green light. There wasn't like, yeah, and then it's coming out here, and then this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. None of that was in the cards at all. It was just like, okay, it's in the can. Now let's see if we can get it out to the world. And that all depends on who's coming in. who the new label head is and what they decide to do, etc. And what happened, another kind of strange set of events happened in that a radio guy there decided to preemptively kind of take the song to radio, even though there was no boss yet. And so he took the song and started playing it for program directors around the country, you know, let's say in maybe November or maybe even December of 97. And the song just blew up,
yeah.
You know.
That song didn't sound like anything else right then. I mean, other than, you know, it had the pop rock qualities to it, which was definitely a happening scene is the words that popped into my mind, for better or worse. But the style of that song, it was really sort of different than anything else out there. Like for that radio person to have heard that is really awesome. Yeah,
you know, we were using a different bucket of paint than pretty much everybody. We've always liked old school stuff, songs from the 50s and 60s, and you know, and then there's the whole Texas music scene, and there's lots of conjunto music and blues and country, and there's all these different streams and strains of music that subconsciously make their way into our thing and into, you know, me personally, into my mind. And what I think of as a hit song is not a hit song. It's a hit song maybe 30 years, 40 years, at this point, 50, 60 years ago. But back then, it wasn't a hit song then. Yeah. I wasn't thinking like Stone Temple Pilots, like, you know, that kind of music, or Soundgarden or Nirvana. I was thinking like Johnny Rivers, you know, Secret Agent Man. That's like, yeah, that's a hit song. You know, it's so outdated. So I was, you know, I had a different kind of template for what I thought would make a great song. And Tony wrote the song, but you know, the guitar parts and everything, that was all coming from, I was thinking of that kind of thing. Luckily, there were other songs on the radio. The radio was wide open for this brief moment in time as far as rock and roll. Yeah. There was this brief moment in time where people were having hits with really weird stuff. And so we got lucky that we came around at that time. Even 2 years later, it was too late. 2 years later, good luck. It was all, or maybe even 1 year later, it was all Kid Rock and Papa Roach, and you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You were never ever gonna get played. The whole playlist changed. So there was just this weird, there's just synchronicity. It's very strange how it all happened.
Well, I don't, you may have known this. You've heard this record a whole lot of times, I'm sure, throughout your life, if not for just playing it. But when I went back and listened to it just a little while ago, I thought it's interesting because there is almost some self-prophecy happening there. When you look at the title, like Which Way to the Top, and the words in Sooner or Later, and in even the line in Warm Fuzzy Feeling where it's scratching its way to number one, like everything in these songs is like, we're going to make it.
Well, there's some of that in there, but there's also a lot of like, no, we're not going anywhere. I mean, Charlie the Met chasing his tail just as fast as he can, you know, and it's definitely, I don't know where, that was my frame of mind. Like, how do I get out of here and get up to where I want to be? Because by that point I was 31, which is not young for a rock musician, you know. You know, now people play music till they're 75, but 20 years ago, I think it was still somewhat that was, you're getting a little long in the tooth to have never had a hit, you know. So I kind of felt like it was now or never, sort of, and I was kind of writing songs like that, but it wasn't really that deliberate. It's more subconscious, I guess. But I do think that songs have power. I do. I think they're like little affirmations, and so maybe it wasn't such a good idea to name our next record The Harsh Light of Day. Well, I want to pull back. Well, let me put that a different way. I'm going to push the curtain forward because I know, especially talking with musicians all the time, that even when all this success is happening, you're just on tour most of the time, and you don't really notice a lot of it. But from the fan perspective, you know, suddenly this video is just on MTV all the time. It's all over radio all the time. And so I sort of wonder, like, did you get to enjoy what I'll generically call the MTV life
any, during that time?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it is really great. And at the same time, it's really empty and meaningless. So I think that's why so many people end up sadly taking their own lives or something. Is maybe they think that if they can make it there to the big time, they won't feel any more of the kind of struggle that we all have to go through as human beings. It's just part of being alive. Yeah. Everybody gets depressed. Everybody, some more than others. Everybody has to struggle with, like, why am I here and what's the meaning of life? Those are like big questions that people wrestle with, whether they know it or not. And it's easy to buy into this idea that if you make it, everything's gonna be great. You'll have everything you need. You'll have money and you'll have sex and you'll have guest lists and life. There'll be no problems. But problems will always find you. Yeah. They're inevitable. It doesn't matter. So there's that. But I'm not gonna lie and try to make it sound like it was miserable. It was a great deal of fun as well.
Yeah. Were there any of those? And this might be too much on the spot. Were there any of those moments that I would say, with success does come some odd, surreal, sometimes bizarre moments that you guys found yourself in?
Oh yeah. One of my favorites was at the end of this tour. I went with the drummer from Sugar Ray. The tour was over, but we were both in New York at the same time. And we went out, and I dragged him to go see Victoria Williams play. And then he dragged me to Scores, the strip bar in Manhattan, where Mark McGrath was hanging out. And he was in the VIP section. Mark McGrath for Sugar Ray dragged me there. We go inside, and we're in the VIP section, and I look, and I have to rub my eyes. Sitting there is my childhood hero, David Lee Roth. And I was like, this is just too good to be true. I just can't believe this. So I wanted to sit next to David Lee Roth, and there was a space next to him, but I had to ask this really big gentleman wearing a pink shirt and a cowboy hat to move over. And he moved over, and when I turned over to look and see who it was Dennis Rodman. So I spent the evening, or part of the evening, sitting between David Lee Roth and Dennis Rodman at a strip bar in New York, and it was a gas. And that was the most surreal. That was probably, of all the crazy experiences I had, that was one of the most surreal and incredible. Just like, how did I get here? This is amazing.
Do you ask David Lee Roth about the fanboy questions that you've always had burning inside you?
He had a running dialogue with himself that there was no interrupting. When I sat down next to him, he said, "Have the bags arrived? The bags have not arrived. Did the bags get stuck in transit?" He was, I think he was reciting a novel. I don't know what he was doing, but he certainly wasn't, "Hi, how are you?" He was kind of off on his own little trip, but I didn't care because he sang a line. I think Mark put him up to this. He sang a line from Fire Escape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did. He sang the line, "How about you?" He went, "How about you? Wow!" And did one of his patented. And I was like, done. Night made.
That's it.
Night made. Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. I love Van Halen. Those 5 albums. It's just, to me, that's like top shelf rock and roll. Yeah. So yeah, I was pleased.
Now, I will say, as far as, done, don't need anything else. But by the end of this all, you became known as Grammy-nominated Fastball. Like, you ended up with the nominations. That has to be a nice ribbon to the run.
It's an honor just to be nominated.
There it is.
Unfortunately, Aerosmith was also nominated. And I knew at that time, if you saw the word Aerosmith, you knew Steven Tyler was going to be making an acceptance. Not to take it away, they're like one of the greatest rock bands of all time. But I just knew, like, that's just our luck,
Right. So
we didn't win anything, but it was fun. It was fun to go to the Grammys. It was fun to go to the MTV Music Awards. All that stuff was really fun, and I'm glad I got to be a part of it. It isn't, over the years and doing it, I could safely say that's not the reason you do it. That's the frosting. It's not the cake.
Well, I'll ask, though, with 20 years, a big round number, are you guys going to do anything with this? Are there anniversary plans?
We're gonna put out a reissue of the album, put it out on vinyl for the first time ever. And as far as shows, I don't know. We're still debating that. I can't safely tell you, like, we're gonna play the record in its entirety like a lot of bands do, because I don't think Tony wants to do that. So I just don't know. Mm-hmm. We've kind of one thing that's maybe hampered our career, but also I'm proud of, is we're not the biggest. We're not quick to be, like, hey, y'all, we're going to do, we don't go for those things so readily. Usually we're usually a little more subtle, maybe to our detriment about what we're doing. So we'll have to see.
Well, I think it's quite the accomplishment anyway, and that record's still a lot of fun to listen to. Just throwing it in the headphones on a sunny day like it is right now in Louisville. I have a lot of fun with it. So, congratulations.
Great.
For what that
Thank
means.
you.
Whatever congratulations can mean 20 years later. Hey, the music still exists. Look at that.
I'm really proud of the record, and I'm even more thankful that people still care. People still care and are interested in that stuff and want to see us play and still like our band. So that's, if you told me 20 years ago that'd be happening, I'm not sure I'd believe you. So I'm glad.
Well, I love it every time you guys put out records. I've loved the last few just as much as the early stuff. So,
thank you. Thanks so much.
All right, Miles. It was great talking to you again.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. All right. Cheers.
You too. Bye.
Bye.